Now, Pakistan's military has accused India of cooking up stories after India alleged that Pakistan had launched drone and missile attacks on military stations across Indian-administered Kashmir. But for more on the story, we cross now to SABC News Correspondent in India, Ishan Garg. Ishan, good morning. So this, of course, the latest escalation, but, coming after that attack where several tourists were killed. But please talk to us about the latest, because there have been statements issued on both sides. But where are we this morning?
Well, the night of Thursday and early Friday morning was very, very tense here in India. We saw blackouts being carried out in nearly 20 districts, all of them along the India-Pakistan border, as well as we got statements from the Indian Army. Early into the night, we got one statement saying that Pakistani missiles and drones had attacked at least 3 Indian military installations in Jammu and Kashmir region. And several hours after that, we got another statement from the Army saying that attack was launched by the Pakistani Army throughout the western front of India, which includes not only the territory of Jammu and Kashmir, but also other Indian states in the west, such as Gujarat, Rajasthan and Punjab. So what we saw on April 22nd was a terrorist attack in Pahalgam in the Kashmir region, and from then on things have escalated to a level where we are now seeing constant cross-border firings from the Indian and the Pakistani side. Indian Army, of course, saying that Pakistan has violated ceasefire conditions along the border. Heavy armed firing and artillery shelling still continuing on the India-Pakistan border.
And at a time like this, Ishan, it's always about the information that's coming through from both sides. And I, would imagine that as journalists, it's difficult because you look at the framing of and also the credibility of the information that is coming through, especially if both sides are disputing what the other is saying.
Well, absolutely, because between the statements that come out from the official channels of either the Indian Army or the Foreign Ministry, there's this whole bunch of statements and posts that are being circulated either on social media or even on Indian news channels where all sorts of news circulate. There's also been warnings about from the Indian government about a disinformation campaign being carried out from the Pakistani side, which of course Islamabad has denied. But there are certainly these concerns. There are concerns about people not knowing about exactly what is going on. So we try and rely only on the official sources and official information that has been given to us to report. Because in the past several days, we've seen Indian officials come out and dispute a lot of the information circulating on social media. There isn't even a fact-checking department of the Press Information Bureau, the media arm of the government, that is working on quelling all these sorts of rumors, because in certain sections of the media you will see a lot of warmongering happening, particularly in the domestic media. But the Indian officials have been telling the citizens to stay away from misinformation spreading online and as well as on conventional channels.
And of course, the great worry here, Ishan, is that these are both countries that have nuclear capability. And at a time when there is already instability in other parts of the world, South Asia, this particular incident has provoked much greater fears. And you were talking about people being warned along the borders there. But is there a lot of displacement going on right now of those residents?
I wouldn't say there's a lot of displacement going on, but there is certainly a heavy degree of concern, especially along the border regions where people have been worried about tensions escalating between India and Pakistan. Because if they do escalate to a level where we're talking about a wider conflict, the people living along the borders would be the first ones who will be impacted. But let's talk about the region of Jammu and Kashmir for a second, because this is where this entire episode has emanated from. There in Kashmir, Indian officials have been sending out ambulances. We've also seen Indian political members of the Indian political establishment going to the border regions to find out what the situation is with the residents there, because in the past few days we have seen several citizens who are on the de facto border between India and Pakistan. They are taking shelter deep within their own makeshift bunkers that they have created, because we must remember that these are two countries that are no stranger to conflict between each other. India and Pakistan have fought 4 different wars since they became independent in 1947, and as you pointed out correctly, this has completely raised concerns about a wider conflict that could plunge the entire South Asian region into chaos, because these two are countries that have nuclear capabilities. Even though analysts have been warning that nuclear steps are steps too far, but they are there. There is always a non-zero chance of that happening. Analysts believe that it will not come to that, but certainly it adds to the tensions that are currently prevailing between India and Pakistan.
And just a final question, Ishan, with regard to mediation between the two, has it reached that level as yet, or is it still, at a stage where they can, between themselves, India and Pakistan, de-escalate the situation?
Well, we've been hearing calls for de-escalation of tensions from the international community. The United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres warning both countries that they should step back from the brink. We've also heard just recently from the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio saying that he has reached out to the Indian Foreign Minister Mr. S. Jaishankar, and also to Pakistani officials, and spoken to both of them, saying that both countries should de-escalate. But at the same time, we've also got comments from US Vice President J.D. Vance saying that a potential war between India and Pakistan would not be America's business. So the international community, in some sense, has been asking both countries to de-escalate tensions. But what's important here is to understand that the diplomatic channels between India and Pakistan have nearly broken down, because in the past 10 years, we've seen diplomatic ties being downgraded time and time again. And New Delhi says that is because Pakistan has been sponsoring cross-border terrorism, and India does not believe in carrying out a dialogue with a nation state that sponsors terrorism on Indian soil. These are allegations that Islamabad has denied, but what it has meant is that the diplomatic communication between Delhi and Islamabad has broken down to a very large degree. We do understand that India's charge d'affaires in Islamabad, who is heading the Indian mission there, they have been in touch with Pakistani officials, but what this diplomatic conversation is going to lead to, whether this is going to de-escalate tensions, that remains to be seen.
Well, Ishan, we'll leave it there for now. Thank you so much, Ishan Garg, our correspondent for us out in India.